Meeting up with a friend at the movies and having no way to communicate once you've left the house. Your friend doesn't show. Is he coming? Should I continue to wait, standing at the precise spot we agreed on? Has he died? Did he forget? I'll call home using a payphone and hope my mom is there to tell me whether he left a message on the answering machine. So much anxiety. But I feel like people kept plans more than they weren't checking their phone to bail for a better option. In general, people met at the agreed upon time and place. They also bothered to actually make plans and had to stick to them instead of flaking out or faffing about with, "I'll just call you." I remember the first time someone stood me up because we hadn't texted same day to confirm we were actually doing the thing. I was baffled. Now I would never plan something a week out and just expect the other person to remember and show up. I hate that this is a thing we have to do now. Worst still is when it happens and somehow you're at fault because you didn't text them to say your plans was still happening. I showed up. Why didn't you text to make sure if you questioned it? I have one friend, and one friend only whom I can make a plan with on Monday. And not talk, communicate all week until our agreed upon meet on Friday. He will show up, each and every time, without question. This is something that is sadly lost nowadays. Let's all meet back here at 6 o'clock. Looks at watch. I've got 4:35. What time do you have? Synchronizing watches? Why don't they just grab it off the satellites? For real though, you never felt more badass than collectively synchronizing watches. It was a staple line in every pre-2000s movie. Having to rewind the tape before returning it to the video store or incur a fee. Having to buy the entire album to get one song you liked or wait for it to come on the radio and record it. Missing any part of the song was unacceptable and you had to wait until it was played again. Then the DJ would talk at the end of the song and ruined it. Or hearing a cool song for 10 seconds in a movie and not knowing its name and buying the soundtrack so you can have the whole song and it's not even on there. Taking pictures, then waiting for them to be developed to see if they turned out okay. Then finding the while roll of film is someone's thumb, cause they didn't know how to hold the camera. I saw someone at Universal Studios taking pictures with a disposable camera a few days ago. I was actually jealous. It was a huge deal about twice a year to take a roll of film in to be processed, then wait. And wait. And wait. Until finally, oh God, I look horrible. And no do-overs. God. The advent of the cell phone camera has changed my life like no other invention. Obviously I am old enough to remember 110 film, shutters. But medical advances aside, what a game changer. Or when you're on the other side of the country on a road trip with a friend, having taken some of the coolest pics ever. And then, the counter on the camera goes one number higher than the film should. To your horror you learn there was no film in the damn camera and the pics you've taken over the last week of your road trip don't exist. Parents not knowing where their kids are and trusting them not to get into trouble. My kids watched Stranger Things with me and they thought it was unrealistic how the kids would just go ride their bikes wherever late at night. I told them we used to do that all the time. One time I broke my collarbone in a pickup football game and had to ride my bike home. I was like 10 miles away. That sucked. Come to think about it, it seems rare to have enough kids playing outside to have a pickup football game nowadays. I kind of wonder if there are places still like that where kids know the neighbor kids well and pretty much freely roam the neighborhood or if it's one of those things that disappeared in a generation. The kids on our street roam around outside and play all the time. They regularly ring the doorbell to see if my fiancé's son is at our house. They spend all day outside and just come inside to eat lunch. Where I live, small rural town, Scandinavia, that's pretty much how it is. My kids go to their friends by themselves, take the bike and go into town, It's totally normal here from like 9 to 10 years old or something. It's a difference between living in a city or living out in the country, I would guess. But maybe it's different in the US, I don't know. I mean, it's more of a generational thing than a neighbor's thing. My dad would tell me how he used to walk by himself or go hang out with friends in the Bronx when he was like 9 or 10. Nowadays, parents in the nicest suburb won't even let their 13-year-old walk 5 blocks to school with their friends. So many kids these days are sheltered until they're teenagers or even older. Not helped by the fact that everyone lives in suburbs where everything is far away and you're stuck in place unless you have a car. How can a kid become at all independent when they need their parents to always drive them around? Having a 3-ring binder of CDs for road trips. The binder was for the OK music. The real good stuff was in a holder on your sun visor. One major tragedy I remember was when I took a sudden hard right turn and all my favorite CDs on the sun visor flew out my open window. Slamming down the receiver on a landline telephone. Pushing the red button is not nearly as satisfying. How we got around without GPS navigation. Our family used to go to Bangor, ME for vacations. Basically to see Stephen King's house. To get there we had to go to AAA and they highlighted the route on street maps and road atlases. This was in the mid-90s. A few years ago I navigated a 30,000 kilometers road trip across 5 provinces and 20 states by road maps, backroad map books, and road signs. Except for when I had to find the nearest gas station, grocery store, or oil change. Those were the moments when Google Maps became a best friend. Listening to the radio with a blank tape in your boombox. Waiting for your favorite song to come on so you can hit record the second you hear the first note. Then the DJ starts talking over it and ruins the whole thing. Checking the payphone change return for any forgotten coins back before normal people could afford cell phones, but I had a pager. I used lots of payphones. I knew where all the local ones I could use from my car. One day I pulled up to use one of my normal ones and I couldn't get a coin in because it was jammed. So I dug out my pocket knife and fiddled with it, and when they all released, I ended up with around $30 in quarters. Felt like I hit the jackpot. Texting without looking at your phone. Turning the dial on the TV to change the channel. That alone is one thing. To channel 3 so the VCR and your original Atari would work. Being able to be an idiot in your formative years and not worry about it being filmed and or put on the internet forever. This is why I feel terrible for anyone born into a family vlog channel. So many are going to grow up and realize that every emotional breakdown they had has been archived and viewed by millions of people. Because their parents saw them crying and thought, jackpot. How to use the card catalog in the library. Like the ones with the cards in the drawers. The difficulty of not being able to instantly find the answer to questions. Lol, if you didn't know a thing you had to ask someone else or find a book on it, or just live your life never knowing. Remember when we used to just be like, huh. I wonder how many soldiers were in Napoleon's army, and then forget about it forever because the library is 7 miles away. Yeah. That's not a thing anymore. Not being able to watch whatever you wanted whenever you wanted. We actually had to look up the show's schedule in a TV guide and be available when it came on. Having a limited amount of music with you when traveling. Even with MP3 players, if you didn't have the song on it you weren't going to listen to it until you could connect to a computer. It's wild having gone from CDs to MP3 players to streaming. Cranking the rear window in a car by hand or the little no-draft window. But you didn't crack these. You just unlatched them and pushed them open. Not having a home computer because the power at your home would never support one and they cost way too much. Not being able to print anything when you eventually did get a small home computer because home printers hadn't been invented yet. The excitement when they came out with the first 3-color ribbon dot matrix printer. Having phones everywhere but in your pocket. Phone booths were all over the place. And you had to keep feeding them coins to keep talking. Rotary dial phones. Black and white television because that's what we had. I remember the first time I saw Star Trek at a friend's house on a color television. I was blown away. Those huge console stereos everyone's mom had. Tube amps, turntables and huge speakers. Man, those sounded awesome. Playing your own records on them when mom was out was the best. Those consoles cranked. Spending a Saturday at the downtown public library because you needed answers. And it was fun. Spending most of your summer outside because there are only 5 channels on television and they were mostly boring during the day. Also, you had nothing better to do. No computer, no cell phone, no video games. So you went out and played outside. Explore, make forts in the woods, stuff like that. Please subscribe and ring the notification bell for more.